Japan's history during World War II contains many shadows, but few are darker than the horrifying story of Unit 731, officially known as the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kwantung Army. Unit 731 operated in secrecy between 1936 and 1945 in Japanese-occupied Manchuria, carrying out some of the most gruesome experiments ever recorded in modern history. Its existence was long denied by the Japanese government, and much of what occurred there only came to light decades later, pieced together through survivor testimonies, declassified documents, and the work of determined researchers. In recent years, renewed attention has been paid to Unit 731 as new archival evidence has surfaced, and survivors of the atrocities have sought recognition for the victims. This is the story of one of history's darkest secrets and the enduring fight for accountability. Unit 731 was established under the command of General Shiro Ishii, a Japanese military physician with a dangerous vision. Ishii was obsessed with the idea of using biological weapons as tools of war, believing they could be the ultimate weapon to secure Japan's dominance. With funding and support from Japan's Imperial Army, Ishii constructed a sprawling complex in Pingfang, near the city of Harbin in Manchuria. Officially, the facility was disguised as a water purification and disease prevention center, but its real purpose was far more sinister. Under Ishii's direction, Unit 731 began conducting human experiments on a massive scale. The victims, referred to as logs by their captors, were mostly Chinese civilians and prisoners of war, though others included Koreans, Mongolians, and Russians. Thousands of men, women, and children were subjected to unimaginable suffering, as Ishii and his team sought to unlock the secrets of biological warfare. The experiments included infecting prisoners with deadly diseases, such as the plague, cholera, and anthrax. Victims were deliberately exposed to the pathogens, and their conditions were monitored as the diseases ravaged their bodies. Some prisoners were dissected alive, without anesthesia, so researchers could observe the effects of the diseases in real time. Others were subjected to frostbite experiments, in which their limbs were frozen, and then thawed to study the progression of gangrene. Still more were injected with various chemicals to test the limits of human endurance. Unit 731 also tested biological weapons on a large scale. In some cases, researchers dropped plague-infected fleas over Chinese villages, causing outbreaks of the deadly disease among the local population. These tests not only killed thousands of civilians, but also provided the Japanese military with critical data on how to deploy biological weapons effectively. Despite the secrecy surrounding Unit 731, rumors of its activities began to spread during the war. Survivors and witnesses reported seeing trucks filled with bodies leaving the Pingfang complex, and locals spoke of strange illnesses breaking out in nearby villages. However, Japan's strict control over information and the chaos of war kept the full extent of the atrocities hidden from the world. The truth about Unit 731 began to emerge after Japan's surrender in 1945. When Soviet forces entered Manchuria, they discovered evidence of the facility's activities, including abandoned laboratories and records of experiments. Some Japanese personnel were captured and tried by the Soviets for war crimes, but the true scale of Unit 731's atrocities remained largely unknown to the wider world. In the immediate aftermath of the war, the United States government became aware of Unit 731's work. Rather than pursuing justice, however, US officials struck a deal with Shiro Ishii and other key figures in exchange for the unit's research data, believing the information could provide an advantage in the emerging Cold War. American authorities granted immunity to the perpetrators of Unit 731's crimes in return for their cooperation. This decision allowed many of the unit's members to escape accountability and reintegrate into Japanese society. For decades, the Japanese government denied the existence of Unit 731, and the topic remained taboo in Japan. It was only in the 1980s and 1990s, as survivors and researchers began to speak out, that the full extent of the atrocities was acknowledged. Documentaries, books, and academic studies shed light on the horrors of Pingfang, and survivor testimonies provided harrowing accounts of the experiments. One such testimony came from a man named Wang Xuan, who grew up near the site of Unit 731's operations. Wang's village had been one of the targets of the unit's biological warfare tests, and he lost several family members to the plague. In the 1990s, Wang became a leading advocate for the recognition of Unit 731's victims, collecting evidence and organizing lawsuits against the Japanese government. His efforts brought international attention to the issue and forced Japan to confront its wartime past. In recent years, new evidence about Unit 731 has come to light. In 2017, Japanese researchers discovered previously unseen documents detailing the unit's activities, including lists of personnel and records of experiments. These findings have provided additional confirmation of the atrocities and have reignited calls for accountability. Despite this progress, the legacy of Unit 731 remains controversial in Japan. While some politicians and historians have acknowledged the crimes, others continue to downplay or deny them. The issue is further complicated by rising nationalist sentiment in Japan and ongoing tensions with China and Korea, where memories of Japanese wartime atrocities remain deeply painful. In 2023, the 80th anniversary of the establishment of Unit 731's Pingfang facility, activists and historians held events to commemorate the victims and call for greater recognition of the unit's crimes. Memorials and museums dedicated to Unit 731 have been established in China, including the Harbin Museum of Unit 731, which documents the atrocities and serves as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and human cruelty. The story of Unit 731 is not just a historical tragedy. It is a cautionary tale about the consequences of dehumanization and the moral compromises made in the pursuit of power. It is a story that demands to be told, not only to honor the victims, but also to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. Today, the shadow of Unit 731 continues to loom over Japan's history, challenging the nation to confront its past and grapple with the legacy of its wartime actions. For the families of the victims and the survivors who continue to speak out, the fight for truth and justice remains unfinished. The secret torture lab of Unit 731 may have been dismantled decades ago, but its lessons are as relevant now as ever.